For more on this, Anthony Chen, former Chief Economist, JP Morgan Chase. Good to see you again, my friend. Here's something you can help me better understand. We have this inflation question that we've been talking about. So companies are raising prices in pretty much everything they do, right? So by default, they would make more money and they would, I guess, make more money, but then the cost of doing everything has also gone up. So as long as they raise their prices more than their costs are going up, it should be good for these companies. But Wall Street is acting like this is Armageddon, because we've seen these tech stocks getting absolutely pummeled the last few days.
Well, what you're seeing among many companies, including the tech companies, is their costs were rising at a fast pace, and so their margins were under some pressure. In the case of Apple, what you hear is that they are being a little bit more strategic when it comes to hiring because there's wage inflation, and that's a pressure that Apple and other technology companies have to deal with. But the thing to keep in mind is that if you have to pay higher wages to new employees that you're hiring, guess what? It reduces the morale of your existing workers unless you do the same thing for them, and that would boost the cost structure. So that is a challenge.
I'll tell you what lowers morale is, and I can tell you that I got plenty of friends in the tech industry, and they are holding lots of shares of stuff that's dropped 50, 60, 70%, right? And for these tech workers, stock is part of your salary. And so if the stock goes down, it's the equivalent of you getting a pay cut every single day for the past year. And guess what? You're feeling pretty sad by where we are today. And ultimately, these companies have to figure out a way to either, I guess, give them more shares to make up for the loss or pay them more money, which neither is probably what companies want to do. I mean, isn't that going to be a problem with this big decline?
That is a problem, but that's a problem we face in every recession. We get a recession every 5.3 years, and recessions only last about 10 months. So I would say that's a short-term problem, but nonetheless a serious problem. Another problem that we haven't mentioned is the fact that the US dollar is strong. And of course, we know a company like Apple sells their products all over. And if you look at the DXY, which is the trade-weighted value of the US dollar, it's up over 15%, 15.2% on a year-to-date basis. So when you bring those sales revenues from overseas back to the United States, you're getting a 15% haircut. So you're getting hit because of that. Some companies have even said, we've done great, but the dollar did even greater than us. And that certainly takes away from the company's glory, or certainly their profits.
But back in the days when I was better with numbers, we did what we call FX hedging, which is you would hedge out your foreign exchange risk. I suppose that's a question for another day. Let me ask you about Meta. So Facebook, Apple, all these companies are all saying kind of the same things, right? That advertising rates are dropping. They're seeing people be more careful about where they place their ads. And then we have this whole issue of those two now fighting each other, and Apple saying that they're going to charge users for, I guess, social media advertising. I don't understand it. I don't know if you've been following or not, but it seems like people are getting desperate and they're trying to drum up money any way they can.
Well, remember, when the economy slows down, those revenues tend to be more strategic. They also tend to go down. Of course, Apple, with their privacy issues, has reduced the ability of some of these companies to capitalize on the user data. So all those things are putting downward pressure, not to mention the fact that Meta has been spending quite a bit of money trying to master the Metaverse. And some people are saying that that money is not being well spent, and that they will have to continue to spend money. The person that sold Oculus to Meta for $3 billion has said that so far what Meta has done with the Metaverse has been very disappointing, and that the product is not good, and yet they continue to throw all those revenues out, and profits are hurt. So Meta is under significant pressure, different pressures, and much greater pressures than Apple is under at this time. And for Apple, the big problems are that everybody depends on services and iPhones to drive the bus, and those were not driving the bus. Where they got some really good news on the computers, but that is not something that you can count on for the future.
Well, I don't know if you heard earlier, we had Professor Economides on earlier from NYU, and he was glass half empty, okay, in terms of looking forward. And I know you are an economist at heart. Do you feel more optimistic about the next 6 months, or do you feel like we're going to have the same conversation in a couple months because we're so worried about everything that we've been paralyzed, essentially?
Well, I think weakness is ahead of us. I think that the economy is going to suffer from slower economic growth 6 months from now. We've been resisting going into a period of recession for quite some time, but I don't think we'll be able to avoid it. And the minute you enter a recession, you're going to see economic growth slowing down. The good news is that recessions don't last forever and that economic expansions last almost 5 times longer than recessions, but it will get worse before it gets better from here. The good news is that I don't think it's going to be a deep recession because central banks have learned that people in countries all over the world don't have the stomach for deep recession, so they kind of blink a little earlier. You saw that in the UK, you saw that in Canada, raising rates a little bit less than the market was expecting, and eventually you'll see that in all the major industrialized countries, including the United States. So yes, we will have a period of slowdown, but it's not going to be all that serious.
Okay, good. I like the glass half full, Anthony, very much. And you'll appreciate this next story, by the way, Anthony, because we're going to be talking about celebrities. And you are kind of a celebrity in New York City because he's hanging out with Jimmy Fallon all the time.